A questo punto inizia la trasmissione. Tutti i partecipanti sono in grado solo di ascoltare.
Hello to everyone. Welcome to everyone. We will wait like 2 minutes in order to give the opportunity to everyone to connect and don't lose the beginning of this webinar. Let's do like this. Open the platform with the red arrow and just type on the question in the question section where you're connecting from and if this is your first webinar you're attending to. So just let me know if this is your first webinar. I see that there is connected Adam, Anna, Christopher, Javier, Jury, Rafael, Grasa, Rui, Francisco, and a few others. I see that Rafael gave me a sign that he's alive. So if someone of you is alive and is not sleeping, please type in the question section where you're connecting from and if this is your first webinar. And in just a few minutes, I will give the word to the speaker, Alessandro. Okay, Anna from Portugal. Fantastic, Anna, first time in this webinar. Okay, bom dia, Anna. Okay, Rafael, this is my first webinar. I'm from Brazil. Oh, fantastic. So a few of you speak Portuguese. So hello to you too. And yes, so I will give the word to Alessandro. So Alessandro, now you will receive an invitation from the platform and people will be able to see your screen. So whenever you're ready, press the button. And so I see that also someone else is connected, Oscar. So if any of you has any question regarding the presentation, just type them and I will be able to see them and to read them to the speaker. You will also receive the registration for this webinar and they will be uploaded on the website of the project. And I believe that maybe Alessandro will tell you something about it or I will tell something in the end of the webinar. So Alessandro, feel free to go. We now see your screen. I will turn off my microphone and my webcam. Go.
Okay, thank you, Francesco. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. I don't know where are you from. And today, this is the second part of the webinar. I don't know if each of you has followed the first one that was related to the viticultural techniques for sustainable viticulture developed in some pilot vineyards that was presented last week by my colleague Sarah Legler. And today, now I can make start the presentation. Okay, here we are. And today I want to talk to you about some opportunity for farmers, but not only for farmers, also for environment and community, related to the adoption of sustainable techniques in the viticulture sector, related to the development, valorization, and assessment of ecosystem services. Before to start, I have to underline what we mean for sustainable viticulture. If some of you have already followed the presentation of Sarah Legler, already know it, but for the others, this is necessary. For sustainable viticulture, I mean the techniques adopted and tested in this project that is named SOIL4WINE and are related to the adoption of temporary or permanent grassing, the use of cover crops, for example, to fix carbon dioxide or nitrogen, and also the drainage and the rainwater management, okay, and so on. The adoption of these techniques lead to the development and exploitment of ecosystem services, and this is the interpretation of the sustainable viticulture today. First of all, I have to tell to you that the SOIL4WINE project is co-financed by the LIFE program. I don't know if each of you know this program, but this is the program of the European Commission aimed at financing projects related to environment, nature, and climate. So now here we go. First of all, if some of you have followed the previous webinar, has learned that a good health of soil lead to a good quality of wine. Okay, but this also is also intuitive. It's true also the contrary. So a good wine production, a sustainable viticulture, lead to a good soil quality. So wine can do so much for soil. Okay, these are two concepts that are linked, and the second one not always is perceived or known by not only citizens and consumers, but also for the worker and wine producer and farmers. Okay, what are these the benefit that viticulture can give to the soil? The first one is the hydrogeological defense, okay, and the reduction of the landslide propensity. Also can reduce the drought to face period of no rain by farmers, climate change and the global warming, biodiversity benefit also in terms of the consistency of species, animal species, and the last one, the landscape quality. All of these benefits are due to the adoption of the techniques that I briefly told at the beginning of my presentation. But there is some interesting consideration that these benefits can be considered services, and in particular ecosystem services. I don't know if some of you already known these concepts, but what are ecosystem services? Also, if some of you doesn't know the ecosystem services, I'm sure that you like them, because the ecosystem services are the benefits that people obtain from ecosystem. Okay. Also, agriculture is, and in particular, vineyard ecosystem can give ecosystem services. And the interesting part is that these benefits are for people, for human people, and so this can permit to obtain a market value for these services. What is the first ecosystem service of a vineyard? The grape production. This is obvious. Food provision. But in this project, we have not analyzed this type of service, but other kind of services that are linked to the regulation of climate or nature, cultural and spiritual, or also recreative aspects, in particular related to soil. The ecosystem services are offered by nature, so we can have ecosystem services that are provided by a forest, a river, a lake, and so on. In this project, we have been focused on the ecosystem services provided by soil. And this is the most famous picture that you can find in the web related to the soil ecosystem services. You can see climate regulation, nutrient cycling, but also foundation for human infrastructure, and so on. There are lots of ecosystem services. In project Soil for Wine, not all these services have been analyzed, but only the soil ecosystem services of a vineyard, managed through viticulture, sustainable viticulture. And what are these ecosystem services? There are 5 ecosystem services that we have analyzed. We have assessed the services and quantified them in biophysical terms and also monetary terms. This has been an amazing role in the project, but also a big challenge to deal with, because for some ecosystem services the quantification is known, the value is known, but for other one we have been engaged in the definition of methods, scientific methods that have been shared and among the scientific community. The first ecosystem service is the erosion protection. All of the vineyards, pilot vineyards of the project, are located in hilly territories, on hills and mountains. So they are located on slope, and all of them are located inside the territory of a park or near the park border. Okay, I was telling soil erosion protection. We have a vineyard that use, for example, grassing, can reduce the soil erosion due to rainwater or wind, and so improve the hydrological defense of the slope, but also can improve the infiltration of water in the ground to face drought and increase the water stock in the groundwater. Also the sequestration of carbon dioxide to face the global warming, and the improvement in terms of biodiversity preservation. Okay, more biomass in soil, and the final one in the landscape quality. I think that each of you, if have a walk, prefer to do that in hilly vineyards instead of a great road in the city, for example. This is a value that each of us can understand. And what are the methods that we use to quantify in biophysical terms these ecosystem services? The soil erosion is quantified, have been quantified through the tons of avoided soil loss. Okay, and we have identified an average value for pilot vineyards of more than 80% of soil loss avoided. The water is the cubic meter of water that have been captured in the ground. More than 50% of water can be captured in soil, considering the hydrological cycle. And obviously for the climate change, the quantification is related to the tons of carbon dioxide, and about 15% of captured CO2 in the soil is the value that we measured in the project. For the biomass, we have not exactly a percentage, because the quantification is on about classes of indicators, but the concept that we have more biomass in soil. For biomass, we have measured microarthropods or worms or this type of animals. And the landscape is a qualitative valuation. This is an aesthetic value, and there is the perception of people. So we have not a quantification, but we have a quantification for all of the 5 ecosystem services in monetary terms. As you can see, the indication of the prices is interesting, and go from 30 euro to 700 euro per hectare per year. The expression of the value in euro per hectare per year is the typical quantification for the agriculture sector. This is the method that is used also for tribute, incentives, relief, and so on. So we have adopted also for ecosystem services this type of quantification. So during the project, we have defined what are the soil function, the problem of the soil function in vineyard. We have developed a web tool able to define what are these soil threats and which are the best techniques, the best practice to face them, and have been applied in pilot vineyards. Okay, we always have 2 vineyards neighbored, one with traditional techniques, the other with innovative techniques, because the LIFE is a demonstrative project, not exactly research, but innovative techniques and demonstrative techniques has to be applied. And then we have defined which are the ecosystem services and what is their value. At this point, we have analyzed the possible payment for ecosystem services. What are the payment for ecosystem services? The acronym is PES. Are mechanisms that are aimed at reward the farmers for the adoption of the sustainable techniques, because these techniques lead to services that are benefits not only for the farmers, okay, but also, as I told at the beginning of the presentation, for community and environment. It's obvious that if we have more carbon dioxide stocked in the ground, this is not go in the atmosphere, and so can reduce the climate change and so the global warming that is a global phenomenon. Okay, but also for the landscape. Obviously, the landscape can be appreciated not only by farmers, but by everyone that can see this landscape. And also for water, we can improve the stock of groundwater. So all the users that can use this groundwater have the benefit due to the investment of some farmers that choose the sustainability techniques. So the definition of this PES is a voluntary transaction for a well-defined ecological service with at least one buyer, at least one provider. And this is important, based on the condition that the buyers only pay if provider continue to deliver the defined ecosystem services over time. So the principle is that we pay the provider so he can reinvest the income of the payment in activities that support the ecosystem services. So in maintenance or exploitation of the ecosystem service. In the case of SOIL4WINE, the provider is always the farmer that use the techniques that improve the ecosystem services. The buyer can be the user, but not necessarily the user, because the PES can be public or private. In the case of public pass, we can have a subject that is that has an intermediary role between the buyer and the provider. So the provider is the farmer, the user is the citizen, and the buyer is the public body. Okay. The problem was that for 4 of these 5 ecosystem services, there is not a market. Okay, we can't go to retail and acquire 1 kilogram of biodiversity, or 2 objects of landscape quality. Okay, we have only 1 type of market for these ecosystem services, that is the carbon credit market, a voluntary carbon credit market. 1 carbon credit is a ton of carbon dioxide captured in a year, and so the farmer can participate to this voluntary carbon credit market. But for the other 4, we have made some creative approaches to develop the payment for ecosystem services. We made 4 feasibility tests for PES. These are the tested payment for ecosystem services. Okay, for the soil erosion, I have to make a premise. In Italy, the reclamation network is managed by local consortia that can have a dimension of large scale. It's about a province. In Italy, the province is a large scale administration. Okay. In hills and mountains, the reclamation and every user have to pay a fee. Okay, a reclamation fee to have to use, okay, to benefit, to have the benefit for the reclamation consortium activities. In hilly and mountain territories, the reclamation activities related not for the management of channels, water channels, and so on, but for hydrogeological defense. For example, for the management of road that can be damaged by landslide, for example. So we have tested with the reclamation consortium of Piacenza, of the province of Piacenza, that is a province in the western part of Emilia-Romagna region, this type of mechanism. The farmers that, with the viticulture techniques, reduced the landslide propensity of the slope can be rewarded with a reduction of this fee. The consideration, the premise is that if a great number of farmers use these techniques, in future, with time, we will have a less number of landslide, an improvement of the stability of the slopes, and a less needs of melioration works by the reclamation consortium. Okay, so in this phase, there is an acknowledgement, a rewarding of the activities of the farmers, but in future also the reclamation consortium will have or can have an economic advantage. Excuse me. This was the first feasibility test. The second one is related to the water capture, but can be because it's very simple to communicate, but can be used also for the other ones. that and is a supply chain valorization, an eco label that can be used by wine producer, wine eco label. There is some wine producer that pay an extra cost to the farmers for grape cultivated in a sustainable way. So is the producer that pay the ecosystem services to the farmer. But to do this, the producer has to be able to communicate to the consumers these initiatives and use the sustainability viticulture as an element of competitiveness. So the project partners have defined a regulation to permit the use of the logo for the producer that can demonstrate that the grape used to produce the wine are cultivated with the techniques of SOIL4WINE project. As I've told you, all the vineyards are located in the park or near the park borders. Obviously, the park, the management body of the park is happy if some of the producer and farmers can improve biodiversity. And we have tried to find a way to reward these farmers. In particular, the main is the use of some of the income of the ticket selling for museums that are located in the park. For all of these feasibility tests, we have made technical, legal, and economic feasibility. In this case, the economic feasibility is not guaranteed because actually we have not so many visitors. But in future, if the tourists of this region will increase and go to the museum, then this is a method, a path that can be used, and the park management body have to preserve the study and try to adopt this when the conditions of the tourist will permit to use it. And also, and always in terms of tourism, the last one is related to the landscape. We have tested this path in some municipalities of the Parma province. In this case, we are not in a great city like Florence, Bologna, or Venice. We are not in the seaside like Romagna coast. We are in rural territory, and also the tourism is a rural one. The hilly vineyards are part of the local heritage and play a strong role in terms of local attractiveness. So the municipalities have decided to use a part of the tourist tax income to reward the farmers that improve the landscape. In Italy, there is a tax that is regulated by a national law, and that states that tourists have to pay for each overnight stay in a hotel, camping, B&B, and so on, this tax. The hotel and camping transfer the income to municipality, and the municipality can use the income for local development. And inside the local development concept, there is also the environment and the culture. So these are the 4 feasibility tests that we developed in the project. 2 of these will become real application. The first one is the tourist tax that before the end of the project will end in December. We'll make a deliberation to adopt this solution. And the second one is the eco label. Okay, already now is possible for a producer that use sustainable grape to use the SOIL4WINE logo that can be put on the bottle and the packaging, or also on promotional documents, and can develop an environmental declaration. This is only an example, okay? Really essential. I think that communication experts of the enterprises can be more appealing than me. But the type of information that can be opposed in the declaration are the vineyard localization, the surface, the type of grape. Old Carmine leaf obviously is a joke, doesn't exist this type of wine, of grape, the indication of the techniques, and the environmental performances of the vineyard, so the improvement of soil ecosystem services. And I have finished my presentation, so if you have some question to put, I'm glad to answer. Thank you. Francesco, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, my microphone was off. Sorry. So,
okay.
So thank you very much for your presentation. If someone of you has any question, just click on the orange arrow, and the panel will open. You have a section where you can type your questions. So if you have any question, you can type it there. Otherwise, I did manage to upload the presentation in PDF in the document section. So let me know if you managed to download it, and or if you have any problem with the download, just also tell me. And if any of you has any problem with the download of the presentation, you can write at my email address asking for it. My email is francesco.invernizzi at vinidea.it. If you want me to repeat it, I will write it in the chat. Maybe it's easier like this. Okay, so I shared my my email with all of you. So if you need the presentation, just ask it there, and I will send it to you. I see that Rui has I don't know has his hand up, but Rui, if you have any question, just type it in the section. I don't know. I see that you're using your hand, but I don't know. So, okay, I think that everyone has managed to download the presentation. So, since there is no question, Alessandro, for me is time to say goodbye to all of the public and to say thank you. So, if you want to greet everybody before we close the communication. Oh no, wait, there is a. Okay. Okay, so Yuri thanks us, Anna as well. Thank you guys. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Yuri. Rui was practicing, so it was very interesting. Okay, thank you very much, Rui. I guess that he is Portuguese, so muito obrigado, Yuri. Muito obrigado, Rui. Okay, so perfect. So thank to all of you to participate, and thank you very much, Alessandro, for your presentation. It was very clear. And,
thanks to everybody for the attention. It's been a pleasure, and so we can see in the future for next webinar
okay.
if someone is interested.
Okay, wait, there is Rafael. I don't have any question. I'd just like to ask Alessandro for the presentation. So for the presentation in PDF, you can already download from the platform. There is a section that is documents, and you can download it there. Otherwise, if you do not manage to download it from here, because maybe you are on a mobile, I will write you, Rafael, my email address, and you can remind it. You can write me and remind it to send it to you. Okay. Okay, so perfect. I think that yeah, I see there's already someone has left, so perfect. So thank you very much again, and goodbye to everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.